In politics, nothing happens out of mere coincidence. Everything in politics is normally well planned, well scripted, and executed to achieve a specific political objective. The Deputy President, Dr. William Samoei Arap Ruto, embarked on a campaign trail of Western Kenya and Rift Valley. And during his rallies, his messaging has been very consistent. One message, that nobody can steal his votes. I want to tell the Deputy President that if the deep state wants to steal his votes, they will. And he will do nothing about it. But why is the Deputy President talking about vote rigging? And why is he talking about the existence of a deep state? For those who've been following the politics of this country, for a long time, the Deputy President has always stated that he's the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya and that he can assure Kenyans that there is nothing like deep state. But he's been very consistent that nobody can steal his votes. Why is the Deputy President insisting that nobody can steal his votes? Anybody who has been following the politics in this country from independence will tell you that vote rigging has been part and parcel of the process. I'm told that previously there used to be mulolongo voting where you just line up. So if candidate A is here, candidate B, then if you're supporting them, you line up. During those times, stories are told of how people with long lines ended up losing in a clear contest during the day. In 2007, when Mwai Kibaki took over, when Mwai Kibaki competed against Raila Odinga clearly won that election. But Raila Odinga was never declared the president of the Republic of Kenya. He was with the Deputy President. So the Deputy President believes very strongly that his elections cannot be rigged because, number one, he's been part of the process and he understands the game. And you give it to him. William Ruto worked with Moi, he worked with Kibaki, he has worked with Raila, he has worked with Uhuru Kenyatta. And he's played critical roles during all those periods. So the Deputy President understands everything about rigging. So for him to come and claim that there's nothing like deep state, he's lying. But one thing he understands is that he can be easily rigged out. I once opined on this channel that the main reason why the Deputy President ventured in Kibera was not to win the elections. The Deputy President went to Kibera to test his rigging schemes, whether his schemes of rigging elections can actually work. A night to that election, those schemes were thwarted by the states. So the Deputy President understands the game. And that's why he's saying his victory cannot be stolen. But I'm going to explain why and how they'll be stolen. Number two, there is a strong feeling in this country that the Deputy President still owns the IBC. Remember, after the 2007 election, the deep state, through the intelligence system, went and created friction between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. That's how they fell out. Then they delivered William Ruto and paired him to Uhuru Kenyatta. And the only way they were going to win the elections was through rigging. And that's how Uhuru and Ruto became the president in 2013. That 2013 elections was clearly rigged, but using technology. Because remember, after 2007, there were calls for electoral reforms. One of them was the introduction of electronic voting and electronic tallying. ODM had insisted that the results were going to be transmitted live. That at the polling station, if results are announced there, then they're relayed. So these guys decided that was not going to happen. So I'm going to explain how these guys will still rig. So there's a strong feeling that the DP still controls IBC because of his previous relationship, working with Uhuru Kenyatta for 10 years, being part of it, the recruitment process. You know, IBC is not about the commissioners only. IBC is even about the staffs. For example, personally, on Twitter, IBC blocked me up to now during the last election. And I know so many ODM supporters they blocked. Why? Because there are certain questions you ask them on Twitter, then they identify you, they block you up to now. So I still believe, and I know the guy who blocked me is I think it's the communications guy. It's called Andrew Limo. Andrew Limo was actually working for Jubilee in IBC. So William Ruto understands all this. And because of the influence in IBC, he believes his votes cannot be rigged. Number 3, there are people in this country who are not comfortable with Raila Odinga becoming the next president of the Republic of Kenya. These people are part and parcel of government. Some of them works for the deep state, but they're not comfortable with Raila Odinga. So the deputy president believes very strongly that he can actually manipulate these people. These people can actually support him to defeat Raila Amolo Odinga. And he also believes, number 4, that his victory cannot be stolen because of the threats of violence. That 2007 can be reactivated anytime. Just recently, you saw what happened between some KDF and some residents somewhere in some parts of this country. So he believes like that. But the truth of the matter is that the elites can actually do anything they want and get away with it. Because the ordinary masses do not know anything. You don't know how elections are conducted. Your work is just to go, vote, and go home. In fact, electoral process in this country is very straightforward, and it's one of the most expensive. After the voter registration, on election day, what you are expected to do is to go outside there, go to a polling station, cast your vote, go home. Nowadays, they don't even want to see you. In the last election, Jubilee created some laws that don't even want to see you near a polling station. So that after voting, you are supposed to go home. Then, once the votes are cast, party agents are normally there. Then these party agents are supposed to monitor and ensure that whatever is cast is what will come out. But that's never the case. So William Samoei Ruto should push for one thing: electoral justice in this country. This is something which, in my view, Raila Odinga also failed to do because he decided to conform. He has tried severally without success. So maybe he decided, let me conform, and when I become the president, then I can fix it. Electoral reforms is what the deputy president should be pushing for as we speak now. Not bragging how his votes will not be stolen. His votes are going to be stolen. And this is how votes are normally stolen in this country. The first strategy they normally use is technology. You know, we said that votes in this country cannot be trusted in the hands of people to just count manually. So elections in this country, in my view, is not electronic. It's manual, because you go there, you go to the booth, you cast your vote, it's counted manually, the results announced manually there, then they are supposed to be transferred electronically. Now the challenge is, on election day during a general election, we are talking of the entire country. IBC will be beaming the results live on TV. So a perception will be created just at the start. In the last election, there was a way Raila Odinga was not overtaking Uhuru Kenyatta at any given stage. So they made sure that Uhuru Kenyatta's votes started arriving. So they maintained at some point some percentage, which was not, Raila Odinga was not passing. Anytime Raila Odinga votes were trying to pass, they were delaying, just to create perception. So what normally happens is that at some point, this technology is made to break down. Ideally, what is supposed to happen, which Jubilee resisted in the last election, is that biometrics should be used, the fingerprints, face recognition, so that you go to the booth physically, you put your hand, your details come out, then you go, you cast your vote, so that anybody whose fingerprint has passed through that gadget is counted as someone who has already voted, then documented also manually. Jubilee said that's not possible. So they allowed IBC to agree and accept manual. So you just go there, jina yako inaandikwa. And that's part of the rigging scheme. Then during tallying, during electronic transfer of results, the system breaks down. So once the system breaks down, it's chaos. Everybody starts making noise. Everybody starts creating their own theories. By the time it's up, different story. The technology is what will be used. In the last election, it was assumed, it was suggested that the deep state inserted some algorithm. And that's why Chris Musando had to be eliminated, because he was the only guy with a password. And these guys needed the password. He refused. So they had to go eliminate him, cut off the finger, use it to access the system, plant the algorithm, and that's how they won. That will still repeat itself if indeed it happened. The second way, and this will happen and William Ruto will not even realize, inflation and deflation of turnouts. We know the number of registered voters in this country. Places like Northeastern, the votes are not high. So it's not only possible to inflate figures in those regions. It's not only very possible to actually say that 500 people voted there while they did not. Vote inflation is very simple, and Jubilee did it very well in the last election. Raila Odinga did not have enough support in Rift Valley, especially the Kalenjin Nation, and in Central Kenya. So you go to Central Kenya, Uhuru gets 530 votes. Raila Odinga gets 12 votes. And Raila Odinga cannot get beyond that. So the simple thing you do is that you give Uhuru, instead of 530, you give him 630. Instead of giving Raila 12, you give Raila 5 or 2. Or instead of giving Uhuru 530, you just decide and you give him 580. That would mean you've already inflated his figure in a polling station by 50. Then you reduce Raila Odinga's figures. Instead of 15, you give him 5. You've reduced by 10. So already that alone, Raila Odinga has lost 60. If you multiply that by the number of polling stations in the larger Mount Kenya and Rift Valley, that was huge. And then the deflation. Then you identify certain areas, marginalized areas, where the turnout is low, then you inflate those turnouts. And number 3, and probably this is why the DP is very confident, is that there's normally fake polling stations. They are not there, but they will be there. Not fake as in fake. So you have a polling station where people are actually voting. In these polling stations, IBC always has streams. Then they'll create a fake stream. So that fake stream will be added. There's nothing you can do. You won't realize. By the time you realize, you go to the Supreme Court. And because you guys have failed to enact laws, you'll have very short time. You'll be time bad. Courts will throw away your petition. Life will go on. The other way they do this is the change of figures between the polling station when the votes are being transported. This form 30, is it form 32 or form what? That form which ODM had the original form here, signed by everybody, and then IBC also posted another form signed by different people, including. So you go to court with a form with totally different figures. IBC has their own form with the figures. What can you do? You didn't have agents, or agents have been bought. What can you do? Nothing. And lastly, the deep state can engineer voter apathy in your strongholds without you knowing. A few days to the elections, for those who've been following Nyanza politics, police are always everywhere. You walk in the street, unakutana tuna polisi, lori ya polisi, in those gears. So women, the elderly, will get scared. They'll say, me, I'm not going to vote. So instead of having 600 people turning out to vote, because you've scared them, you've intimidated them with the police, they don't. You get only 500, 100 people are not, because of that fear. So that's how rigging takes place. And there's nothing the DP will do. Already I'm told in Rift Valley they've identified hotspots. And they are building police stations around those hotspots to protect. But again, that's intimidation. I don't know what to think. But the truth of the matter is that if these guys want to rig William Ruto's votes, they will do. And will do nothing. My advice is simple. Focus on electoral reforms. If the DP can focus and push for electoral reforms, the better for him, the better for the country and for prosperity. Until that time, vote rigging is something which will still happen today, it will happen tomorrow, and will happen next year, not only in Kenya, but across the globe. Thank you guys, and may you have a good day. Bye-bye.